Hi, Tim Tucker here from United Way Central Ohio Tax Time Training. This video is part 4 in our series on the Ohio School District income tax. In this video, we will discuss part year residency in an earned income school district. In this video, we will cover the following. We'll complete an SC100 for a part year resident of an earned income taxing school district, and we will better understand the logistics involved in entering part year school district information into TaxSlayer. The base income used for calculating the earned income school district tax is shown on line 33, and it is the lesser of the following two amounts. The wages earned while the taxpayer was a resident of that school district, which is on line 29, plus the self-employment income earned while that taxpayer was a resident of the school district, which is shown on line 30. Typically, the taxpayer should be able to estimate the income earned while living in that school district. If they can't give us a good estimate, we can always try to do prorating based on the fraction of the year that the taxpayer resided in that school district. Line 32, which is the MAGI prorated by how long the taxpayer resided in the school district, is also used as part of this comparison. TaxSlayer does this calculation automatically for us based on the part year residency dates that we entered. We still don't understand quite why Ohio uses the MAGI for any kind of calculation for the earned income school district tax base, because MAGI includes things other than earned income, such as pensions, gambling, unearned income. So I don't quite know why they do that, but that's part of the calculation. In this video, we're going to concentrate primarily on the wages and self-employment income and making sure that lines 29 and 30 reflect accurately the amount of income the taxpayer earned while a resident of that school district. The general steps are as follows. Step 1, prepare the federal and Ohio return as normal, and you already know how to do this. As part of this step during the intake interview with the taxpayer, you'll identify all the school districts where the taxpayer lived during the year and the beginning and end dates of residency. In step 2, you'll identify the wages and self-employment income earned while residing in that taxing school district. If that's not possible, you can make a calculation by prorating the amount of wages and self-employment income based on the fraction of the year the taxpayer resided in that school district. In step 3, we'll add the ST100 to the return. We will include all the school districts identified in step 1. Each school district will be entered as a part year residency with the appropriate residency start and stop dates. In step 4, we will enter the wages and self-employment income into the ST100 for that taxing school district. The wage entry is going to be an override of the default value that TaxSlayer calculates, which it's best to assume that the value that TaxSlayer populates is going to be incorrect. Step 5, we will exit the Ohio return, generate a PDF, and verify that the ST100 looks correct and sane. Let's consider the following example. Our taxpayer is Jim Brown. He lived in Columbus, which is a non-taxing school district, for the first 3 months of the year. He then moved to Plain City, which is a taxing school district. It's the Jonathan Alder School District. He lived there for the remaining 9 months of the year. He earned $30,000 with a W-2 job that he worked for 10 months from March through the end of the year. And he got $5,000 in self-employment income, which he earned from working from June through the end of the year. His W-2 employer did not withhold any school district taxes, although that's not real significant here. Let's go ahead and see how this plays out. We have already completed step 1 by preparing the federal and Ohio return as normal, so we're not going to go through preparing that return. Now we will go ahead and work on step 2, where we identify the wages and self-employment income earned while a resident of the taxing school district. Let's look at how to properly allocate the income to the taxing school district. So in scenario one, we're going to say that Jim is able to identify where and when he earned his wages and self-employment income. So for the wages earned in Plain City, which is in the Jonathan Alderman taxing school district, Jim worked his W-2 job for 10 months in 2025, and 9 of those months were while he was living in Plain City. So we'll go ahead and allocate 9/10 of that income into Plain City. And this is going to end up on line 29 of the SD 100. For the self-employment income, Jim earned all of his self-employment income while he was living in Plain City. So we'll go ahead and allocate the entire $5,000 of self-employment income to Plain City, and this ends up on line 30. So let's say Jim wasn't able to identify where and when he earned his wages. We would go ahead and prorate this for the 9 out of 12 months that Jim lived in Plain City. So for his wages, we would say this is W-2 wages of $30,000 times 9/12 would be what ends up on line 29. And for self-employment income, we would allocate 9/12 of the $5,000 to line 30. Let's go ahead and we're going to enter the scenario one data into TaxSlayer and see how that works out. So step 3 is we will add the SC100 to the return and include all the school districts we identified in prior steps. And each school district will be entered as part year residency with the appropriate residency start and stop dates. I will now add the SC100 to the return that I've already prepared. So I'm going to state return and localities, SD100, resident, and the county lived in for a majority is, in this case, it's Madison County. And now let's go ahead and add the school districts. So let's start by adding the school district for Columbus, which is in Franklin County. And then the resident status for Columbus is going to be part year. And the dates that we lived in Columbus were 1/1/2025, and the last date was 3/31. Okay, we'll continue. And we will continue. Nothing else we need to do for Columbus. Now we will add the Jonathan Alder School District. So here the county is Madison. School district is Jonathan Alder. The residency status is part year. And the dates are 4/1/2025 to the end of the year. Continue. And we have entered both school districts as we can see here. For step 4, we will enter the wages and self-employment income into the SD100 for the taxing school district. Note that the entry will be an override rather than an adjustment. Before I go ahead and enter the wage and self-employment income, I want to show you what the SD100 would look like at this stage if we did not go any farther in terms of entering this override. So if I scroll down to the SD100, we can see in the earned income section, although it does recognize the school district number, there is nothing for line 29 wages or line 30 self-employment income. This is why, in general, the safe thing to do when entering earned income school district tax is to always assume that there has to be an override. The tax layer will not have the correct values. Sometimes it may, but in general, it will not. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. There's also more information in our Ohio School District Tax FAQ. So let's go ahead and edit the school district SD100. We will use the information that we calculated before for Jim because we had a pretty good idea of when he earned the income. So we will edit the school district information for Jonathan Alder. And in the earned income tax base, we were going to enter the wages. And earlier we decided that we were going to allocate $27,000 as the amount of wages income that he earned on Jonathan Alder. And self-employment income was $5,000. You can see that the tax layer will give you a little reminder about what the federal Schedule C income was. So we'll hit continue, back, exit the Ohio return, continue. One more continue just to see if there were any errors that popped up. Nope, we're good. Step 5 is to exit the Ohio return, generate a PDF, and verify the SD100 looks correct and sane. I will now generate the PDF of the SD100. Blow it up a little bit and scroll down to the SD100. We see our two school districts, Columbus and Jonathan Alder, and the appropriate residency factors. And if I go to the earned income section, what I see is the override that we put in there for the earned income and the self-employment income. Now, if you notice one oddity, when TaxLayer does the calculation for the portion of line 3, receivable and resident, it just does a prorated calculation. That actually comes out to be lower than the actual self-employment and wage income that we calculated. Theoretically, we could go back and make an override of the Magi if we wanted to. I am going to leave it as is and let it just calculate the tax based on the lesser of these two, which is 26,102. And that is basically the 26,102 times this school district tax rate, which results in a school district tax of 326. And then that carries back up to the to the SD100. If you're curious how TaxSlayer comes up with the wage income for the earned income school district, let's do a little experiment. I'm going to go back into my school district entry and remove the override that we put in before for Jonathan Alder. So in the earned income tax base, we have this override. I'm going to get rid of that and get rid of the self-employment and exit out of the Ohio return to the point where we can generate the PDF. And if we generate the PDF here, we did this earlier, but it'll sort of refresh our memory. What we see in the earned income section is there's nothing for line 29 for wages, nothing for self-employment income, line 30. So now if we go back to the federal section, continue one more time. If we were to go to the W-2 and edit the W-2 that we created, the W-2 in the local section doesn't have anything for any wages that are assigned to the locality for Jonathan Alder School District. If I added that, I'll show you what would happen. What do I have in there? 55. And we'll put in our $30,000 local wages. And I'm still going to put it 0 withholding. But for here, I'm going to put in the Jonathan Alder School District 4902. So now if we continue and go to the state section, let's take a look at what the SD100 would look like now. Going to the earned income section, you can see now it recognizes the $30,000. So the only way that it knows about income for the school district is either if we override it or if there is local wages that are assigned to that locality on the W-2 or the W-2s. Self-employment income will never be populated. That always has to be overridden. So I just wanted to show you how that works in TaxSlayer. Some parting thoughts as we wrap up. Part year residency SD100s must include entries for all residences where the taxpayer lived during the year. The total days have to add up to 365 or 366 if it were a leap year. For earned income SD100s, it's best to assume that the default TaxSlayer entry for line 29, which is the part year wages allocated to this school district, is going to be incorrect and will need to be overridden. For earned income SD100, line 30, the self-employment income, which is allocated to the school district, is never automatically populated and will need to be manually populated if there is self-employment income. And finally, although we didn't do it here, it's always a good idea to add a descriptive preparer's note to the return as a record of any kind of assumptions and calculations that were made that are not obvious. Thanks for watching part 4 of this video series. Please continue on with parts 5 and beyond. Links to FAQs and useful websites are posted in the description below the video. If you've got questions or comments, you can leave me a comment on this YouTube channel. You can ping me on Slack or send email to timmythetaxman@gmail.com.